We're going to talk about getting to that bag. Everybody want to talk about getting to that bag. But today's episode, we're going to talk about getting to them bills. Come on in, family. We have another solid episode for you today. We're going to talk about getting to that bag. Everybody want to talk about getting to that bag. But today's episode, we're going to talk about getting to them bills. We're going to continue the conversation around box trucks. That's what we're talking about. So today we're talking about operational expenses. Before we get started, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. Now, here's what I always try to tell people when they come and we're talking about box trucks. I always tell people, let's start a framework of a plan and look at your expenses so you know how much is what's going to be going out before you can get to that bag and bring that money in. Okay? First thing we start off with is your fixed expenses. These are things that are simple that you can plan for. You don't have to be in business just yet, but these are things that you can plan for before you even get into the business. All right, first one, we're going to talk about fixed expenses. Is insurance. You can call and get about 3 or 4 different quotes from insurance companies and figure out what that insurance payment is going to look like on a month-to-month basis. And that's kind of based on a couple different things, like your year, make, and model of your truck and your driver's driving history, which that should help with your recruiting. Because if you get a driver who has a solid driving history, more than likely it's going to be beneficial on the insurance part of it. Next is your truck note. We talked about on another episode, how do you plan on financing? If you go through a bank or a credit union, however you're doing that, you can plan of how much your monthly note is going to be. So now we have your insurance and your truck note. Next, what do you plan on garaging your truck? You got to know, are you going to park it at a friend's house? You're going to park it at a warehouse? You got to know where you're going to keep your truck. And you can plan for that monthly fee. Next, how do you guys plan on getting your loads? Well, we use load boards. And obviously we use a couple different ones for obvious reasons. We're trying to maximize our trucks. Now, once you get rolling and you figure out which load boards works best for you, you can cancel those and keep the ones that are working really well for you. But that's a fixed item that you want to plan and have in your budget. Okay? You got to have it in there. How do you guys plan on paying your drivers or your employees? We use a payroll company. It's very user-friendly. You know, the one that I recommend that we use is Gusto. Again, direct deposit. Their platform fees are very reasonable, but have a plan of where you're going to pay your employees or how you're going to pay your employees and your drivers. You can go the old-fashioned way. You can write checks. But I'm telling you, most people want that direct deposit. Those are your fixed expenses. Now, you may have some other ones out there if you plan on doing some other things, technology-wise, or some other things you can use. But those are your primary ones that I would say get a quote for. Have that number in mind before you start your business. You got to know that. Next, we have your variable expenses. Now, these are some things that you can plan for, and some of these things that are just going to pop up, right? And that's why I want to let you know is have an idea of what may come up in your box trucks game or in your business that you may not even think about, right? Because those are some things that came up on us that we didn't think about or we didn't even plan for. But I want to share that information with you so you can navigate and not hit the same hurdles that we hit once we got into the game. All right, first variable expense is obvious, is your fuel. Now, fuel prices seems to be changing on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. Now, I can tell you, once you get to running your trucks over about 3 to 5 week period, you'll be able to determine how much on average you're spending per truck. Again, once you're running, it's something it's not a hard number because each week is going to be different depending on if you're running, in state or out of state, how far you're going that number is always going to change. But if you stay consistent and stand in the same lanes, you'll be able to kind of average out what you're paying on a weekly basis per truck. Here's a biggie. People always ask, how much do you pay your drivers? One way is you can pay a flat fee per load. Again, it's a flat fee per load. Or you can pay a percentage of the load, which is what we do. Industry averages around 20 to 25%. We like to pay on the top end around 28 to 30%. The drivers out there taking care of the truck, keeping the wheels turning. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our team and our people, so everybody's moving forward within the company. So again, we pay a percentage of the load, around 28 to 30% is where we are. Here's a big one. People always ask me, how much do you pay a dispatcher? And again, remember, this is your variable expenses, right? This is something that can go up and down, or some things can just pop up. Dispatcher. Now, if you get a dispatcher who are fairly new to the game, something reasonable is around 8 to 10%. Now, if you have a dispatcher that's been around for a while and they're getting you your truck round trip loads and they're keeping you rolling, well, they can command up to 12 to 15%, and they're worth it. So it's not out of the stretch of paying a dispatcher up to 12 to 15%. Now, factoring fees. This is something that you want to look up and make sure that you're familiar with. A factoring company is something that will purchase your invoice from you, and they will advance you your pay. And they'll charge you anywhere from 2 to 4%. Okay? Again, a factoring company is something that you want to make sure you look up and understand. I'll give you one that we use. It's Apex Capital. That's APEX Capital. Really good company, platform. They have an app that I like to use. Really user-friendly platform, and they have an account manager. And those are some of the reasons why I like Apex Capital. They have many out there. Trust me, many out there. Here's one that I was talking about from the variable side. You want to have a preventative maintenance program. Let me tell you, make sure that you have a preventative maintenance program. What does it look like? Now, each week, we set aside a percentage of our income or our profit to go in our preventative maintenance plan. Here's why. If you're taking care of your driver and you're taking care of your equipment, those are your primary two items that's going to be making your business money. So you have to take care of your equipment. In fact, if you're taking care of your equipment, your drivers have it because they know that the company cares about the equipment that they're in. So you make sure that you have a preventative maintenance plan. You can set that up however you like. We do on a week-to-week basis. We carve out a percentage to go into an account for our preventative maintenance plan. I suggest you, before you get in it, understand what that number looks like for you. Okay? Damaged freight. Damaged freight. It's not if it will happen. It's a matter of when. We got into it. We had a driver on a run, turned the corner too fast. The freight fell over. I had to call the broker. Luckily, the entire freight wasn't damaged. We was able to negotiate a rate. And of course, that particular load, it ate into most of our profit. But again, that's something that you want to think about and plan for. You know, it's a lot of different things that can come up in this game when you're dealing with box trucks and freight. So those are some things I want to highlight just to make sure you guys are aware of it. One more variable expense I'll tell you guys about that you definitely want to plan for is lodging and food expenses. You have a driver that's out there. They don't make it to the drop-off spot in time, and they're in a different state. Well, they have to have a place to stay, and they're going to have to eat, right? So I always tell my drivers, hey, get a hotel, food, give me the receipts on your return, we'll get you reimbursed. That's another one of those items that you want to make sure you set aside a certain amount, whatever the number looks like for you, make sure you have that on your budget item. Hotel and lodging. So we always talk about getting to the bag. Let's focus on making sure we understand getting to the bills and what it costs to run and manage this business. So again, we talked about the fixed expenses and the variable expenses. Both are really important. Make sure you have a plan for both. before you get in the game, I would map out what those expenses look like, try to estimate, set up for success. If you have any additional comments, please drop them in the comment section. Me and my team will make sure we reach back out and respond. Look forward to talking to you guys. Peace.